Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to a brand new season of the A-Game. I'm Noah Cornelius, joined by...
I'm Paula McKenna.
I'm Hunter Boston.
So App State football is set to kick off in September. Your Mountaineers are facing Gardner-Webb University. How are we feeling about the Mountaineers this season?
Well, first episode jitters. But in all seriousness, I feel good about this team. However, I don't know much about Ryan Berger. Now, look, they have the stats on him on the Athletics website. And I also know he's got an NIL deal with the Cardinals. Apparently, it's the Ryan Berger. I got to go try it. He appeared in one game last season, playing 26 snaps against Robert Morris as a true freshman, where he completed 4 of 6 passes for 40 yards. Lucas at WASU, were actually there calling the game, and I got to watch him for a little bit, and I was like, okay, he's got something. But he kind of faded into the back of my mind because we had Chase Bryce. So now that he's starting for this team, it seems like he is the good first pick for, starting quarterback. But Joey Aguilar is right there as well. I'm also looking at the running backs, Nate Noel and Amani Marshall. What are they going to do now that Cam Peoples is gone? And they also got Kanye Roberts, who's deeper in the depth chart, but he could be good. Also, shout out to Anderson Castle. I wish he got more playing time, but I get it. There's just more capable players. But the most important thing I want to talk about, will our defense improve? We lost DeMarco Jackson 2 years ago. We lost Stephen Jones Jr. and Nick Hampton 1 year ago. Could Nick Ross be an X factor? It's too early to tell, but I wish I could call Jeff Marson and hear his thoughts, because that man knows every single player. He's got all the bios in the back of his head. I wish I could call him and be like, yo, can you tell me about this team? Because he's like an almanac. What do y'all think?
Well, I'll let Hunter take this one, because Hunter, you have some experience with a football team.
Yeah, Hunter.
Yeah, that's right. Me, Ryan, and Lucas from WASU actually on the call this weekend against Gardner-Webb. So we've got to really look at this App State team this year. Noah, you really nailed it on the head. The biggest thing from last year to this year is the new quarterback, new running back. Can Ryan Berger take the job or take who was Chase Bryce? Because Chase was just that leader on the team. He was that guy. He showed up every day, professional, was the guy on this App State football team. So can Ryan Berger do that? And we've seen a lot of Nate Noel and Amani Marshall the last couple of years football season, so I think they're going to be fine. And that's going to really help with a young quarterback like Ryan Berger, having good wide receivers and running backs, and also having a good offensive line up front. Center Isaiah Helms, captain of the football team this year, he's going to anchor that squad. It's really going to help that offense do good this season. Then defense, like you said, completely new defensive staff. And a lot of new people on the defensive line, linebackers, secondary, you name it, new faces everywhere. So it's kind of a new look App State football team this year. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hunter, since we were talking about football, I guess it's time to talk about the other football.
That's right, the other football, and that's Inter Miami. They just claimed their first League Cup win with Lionel Messi. What does Messi mean for Inter Miami and American soccer in general?
So don't even get me started on it. The Messi we are seeing now is a whole different Messi than we saw in Barcelona, PSG, and just Argentina. He's having fun. He's happy. He is loving life, and he is taking that team to the next level. Not only is he having fun, but he also is just doing a phenomenal job with making the team into the team they could be. He is so humble. I don't know if you guys had seen it, but when they won that cup, he took off the captain's band and he gave it to Yedlin, who was the former captain before Messi came to Miami. So just the way they went about the whole situation and winning, and just the PKs at the end, it was just so good. Have you guys seen anything about Messi?
Oh, I mean, he's dominant, and I can't explain that enough, but not for the on-field reasons. Let's talk about the MLS in a broader scope. Remember when David Beckham came to the MLS and he got a little bit of a piece of... I'm not comparing them as players.
They're not comparable at all. At all.
Oh, not at all?
No, because the way that Messi Messi is the GOAT. I'm sorry. David Beckham, he was the first. He was the first. But in terms of the MLS, American soccer now, so much better than what it was.
Oh, no,
absolutely. In terms of the World Cup, everything. I'm just such a big fan of Messi being here, and I'm sure Carlos is also a big fan of Messi being in Miami. I think that is why Carlos went to Miami in the first place.
No, but what I'm trying to say is in terms of the popularity, this just brings it was even bigger than that. Because when David Beckham came, that was good. But Messi now, the MLS was already bigger than when Beckham came. Now that Messi's here, I don't even need to bring up stats. He's scored a goal in every single game, if not every single game he's been in.
I think it's been 10 goals
10
in 7
goals
games.
in 7 games. This is huge for the MLS in terms of relevancy. That's what I was trying to get at. Ticket prices are through the roof, and rightfully so, because it's Lionel Messi. So, Paul, you bring up a good point there, but I'm just talking about in terms of popularity and broad scope. This is unprecedented heights for the MLS, bigger than I can't even think about the last time the foreign player came over.
I mean, just this may just be me, but it's still football. It's not soccer, okay? I'm sorry, but it's still football. Definitely not soccer.
Well, it's called MLS for a reason. League soccer. Hunter, what you got to say?
Yeah, I mean, really, from I'm a soccer fan, but I don't know a lot about soccer and like the MLS. But just coming from like the outside looking in, just an unprecedented just moment in like American soccer, especially looking at the MLS as a league. It's crazy compared to the other ones. They're really getting a lot of eyeballs right now.
Well, Hunter, my friend, we're going to keep it on you because the MLB playoffs are swiftly approaching. There are many teams within just a few games making it to the postseason. So, Hunter, what are your predictions as the season comes to an end?
Yeah, going from MLS to MLB, and we're about 31 games left to go in the season. Roughly, some teams might have 1 or 2 more. And there's a lot of divisions that are close, a lot of divisions that are not close. And some of the divisions that are not close is the AL Central. I think the Twins, they're at number 1 right now. They probably have the easiest schedule for the rest of this season. The Guardians are 7 games behind, but I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to catch them. The NL East, the Braves, the way that lineup is hitting and that team is playing, I do not think that the Phillies, who are in second, that are 12 and a half games behind, are going to be able to catch
Watch
up.
what you
I
say
apologize. But the Braves are just too good, and I don't think anybody is going to catch up to them in that NL East. The Marlins are actually in 3rd, but they're almost 20 games behind, which just goes to how good that Braves team is. Sorry, I got to toot my horn a little bit with the Braves.
I mean, Noah's acting like he's been a Phillies fan his whole life. He is a new Phillies fan.
I'm a changed man, okay? But
no.
You know what? Let's talk about the Phillies for a little bit. I mean, look, Bryce Harper is Bryce Harper. Trey Turner got some love from Philly sports fan when he was at his lowest. You can always rely on Castellanos to hit a bomb, but Schwarber has it set up. He's batting 187.
Yeah, I mean, you got a point. The Phillies will be there, but it's not going to be for the division. It's going to be for the wild card, which I'll cover here in a second, because the wild card in the NL is super, super close. But, just going back to my divisions, another division that's probably out right now is the NL West. The Dodgers, the Diamondbacks are in second, 13 games behind. We will talk about the Diamondbacks a little bit later, but I think the Dodgers are going to win that game. Then NL Central, AL East, AL West, all divisions that are super, super close. When you look at the AL West, you have the Mariners that are in first. The Rangers and the Astros are 1 game behind, and all these teams play each other. So that could come down to the very end very easily. And then, they got the AL East. The Orioles are in first with the Rays behind them. The Rays started this season one of the hottest teams, honestly, in the entire league.
13 straight, right?
Yeah, 13 straight games in the history of the league, one of the hottest teams. So very interesting. And then, of course, like I was talking about a while ago, the wild card for both of these conferences, with the AL, the Tampa Bay Rays, Texas Rangers, and Houston Astros are currently right there. But like I said, those teams are playing each other. One of those teams, either the Rangers or Astros, could be leading the division at the end of this season. And then, of course, the NL, the Phillies, Cubs, and Diamondbacks all right there in the mix for the wild card. Actually, they're all in the wild card, but the Giants and Reds are right behind them trying to get to that 3rd spot.
Look, man, I'm just going to be cheering for the Fightins. But look, don't go anywhere, because after the break, we'll hear from Nick, Judson, and Lucas about the Carolina Panthers, App State football, and the FIBA World Cup basketball. World Cup basketball. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the A-Game. Nick, give us a preview of the upcoming season for the Carolina Panthers.
Absolutely. The Carolina Panthers preseason has just ended, and they're looking to prepare for the regular season. They just cut down their roster to 53 players, so it will be all about the Atlanta Falcons Week 1 on September 10th, from now until that game. The Panthers are in a winnable division, but if they want to have success this coming year, there are 3 things that they have to do. The first thing they got to do is to find out who their go-to receivers are going to be on this team. It could be Adam Thielen, who was great for the Vikings for a long time, although he's getting up there in age. It could be DJ Chark, who has shown potential whenever he's been healthy to become a top receiver. However, he already has a hamstring injury, and he has some questions going into this year about how he's going to recover from that. And it could be someone like a Jonathan Mingo, who's a rookie out of Ole Miss, who we haven't seen play in the NFL yet, so we're not entirely sure what we're going to get out of him, but he is already a starter just strictly from what he's done in camp so far. So we'll see if someone like him, a guy like Hayden Hurst at the tight end spot, probably will also have to step up for the Panthers in order for them to have a productive year receiving. But ever since they traded DJ Moore for Bryce Young, this is the risk that they've taken in order for this next year to be successful. They have to find someone in this receiving core that maybe you wouldn't think on paper would be someone that would be great to step up and be the guy for them. The second thing that they have to do, which is something that stemmed more from the preseason than something we would have expected going into this year, is shore up the offensive line. Some of that will be helped when Austin Colbert comes back, who's our right guard who tore his ACL in the last game of the year last year against New Orleans, at New Orleans, in a game that didn't even matter. But in the meantime, he's going to miss the first couple games. We're probably going to have someone like a Chandler Zavala start who hasn't played in the NFL yet. We're going to have someone come in that needs to fill in and play well, and we had some struggles earlier in the year, earlier in the preseason, in particular against the Jets, where sometimes that right guard spot wasn't reliable enough. And the other thing that showed up in the preseason, Ike Ekwonu, before the year you'd think he'd be a reliable left tackle, pretty much guaranteed, but he's had his struggles in the preseason. He's got to shore them up. He's got to show that he's going to be a good pass blocker. Lastly, the third thing, they need to be great on defense. Even in the Matt Rule era, the team wasn't very good, but they had a lot of talent on defense. They had guys like Brian Burns. They had J.C. Horn. They had Derek Brown. They have Jeremy Chin. They all played then. They were all good players, and they're back on this team now, and that defense has to step up and be elite for the Panthers in order for them to have success so far in this season. They've got a new staff. They got a lot of energy coming in with new head coach Frank Reich, new quarterback Bryce Young, and there's a lot of excitement for the Panthers coming up next year. So on the topic of football, Lucas, what do you have to say about about Appalachian State's electric history of season openers?
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, with the App State 2023-2024 season kicking off this weekend, I wanted to take a look at the most memorable season openers in App State history. So going back 16 years, the Mountaineers traveled 560 miles to Ann Arbor to face the number 5 Michigan Wolverines. Behind then quarterback Armani Edwards, App State came out to a hot start, taking a 28-14 lead over what was considered a national championship contender at the time. The Wolverines fought back, though, taking a 32-31 lead with just over 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but that's when not one, but 2 field goals were blocked by the Mountaineers, and a late field goal by the Mountaineers gave them the 34-32 victory over the Wolverines, cementing their place in college football history. And moving forward 9 years, Mountaineers played another tough task, a little closer to home. They traveled to Neyland Stadium to take on the Tennessee Volunteers, ranked number 9 in the country at the time. And just like against Michigan, they came out to a hot start, scoring 2 touchdowns and holding the Volunteers to just 3 points at halftime. Unfortunately, even though the Mountaineers played a better game, they had a missed field goal and a missed extra point, and those mistakes left the door open just enough for the Volunteers to send the game into overtime and take the 2013 victory. But then just 2 years after that, they wanted to test themselves against another top 10 team, so they traveled up the East Coast to the famous Beaver Stadium to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions, ranked number 10 in the country at the time. And unlike the other 2 games on this list, they did not get off to a hot start. They were trailing 31-17 entering the fourth quarter, with the Lions looking like they were in complete control of the game. Onside kick completely flipped the momentum, and the App State Mountaineers rode that momentum to take a 7-point lead with just over 1 minute left in the game. And after Penn State tied the game, Chandler Stanton had a chance to kick a 50-yard game-winning field goal, but was far right, and it was all history. Nittany Lions would send it to overtime and win by a touchdown, unfortunately coming just this close to beating another top 10 team. But now we jump into the modern era of App State football. In 2021, the Mountaineers kicked off their season in Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte against the East Carolina Pirates. That was the first start for quarterback Chase Bryce, and he came out firing. The Mountaineers won 33-19 in that game handily, and even though that wasn't a tough game at the time, it has some history now, as we'll be facing East Carolina in the third week of this year, as the Purple and Gold Army will come up to Boone later this year. But then the season opener, I'm sure we're all thinking of last year, UNC came to Kid Brewer Stadium, first time ever Tar Heels were in Boone, and it was one for the ages, 63-61 final score. Mountaineers went into the fourth quarter down 41-21, but scored 40 points behind Chase Bryce. Came this close to victory, but
Yeah, what an offensive performance from both teams.
I mean, ridiculous, but two-point conversions were failed, and they weren't able to finish it up. But the FIBA World Cup is coming to a close in the next week. Judson, what are your predictions for what we may see in the final round?
Yeah, so before I get to my predictions for the final round, I want to note some early headlines just 4 days into the tournament, with the first being Team Japan securing its first ever victory against a European team in the World Cup as they defeated Finland in their home arena in Okinawa, Japan, 98-88. This was a hard-fought victory as they had to come back from down 18. It was an outstanding performance from forward Josh Hawkinson as he scored 28 points with 19 rebounds. He is currently 5th in points per game in the entire FIBA World Cup tournament. Also, Yuki Kawamura scored 15 in the fourth with a dagger three-point shot over Finland's Lauri Markkanen to give Japan the W. The next emerging headline would be Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. He's starting to look like a left-handed Kobe Bryant. He's even wearing the number 24, and his mid-range oriented game shows an eerily similar play style to the late, great Black Mamba. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson last played for the Nets and was in NBA action in 2021. He ranks second in the tournament with 31.5 points per game and 9 rebounds per game over 2. He is currently playing for BSN, a Puerto Rican league, but will and is expected to gain interest heavily from the NBA. Last headline is Team Latvia stuns France. France has already been eliminated from the tournament, and it looks like they could have used Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama is not playing in the tournament due to his focus for his first year with the San Antonio Spurs. As we get through those, we'll finally look at the teams that I think have the chance to win it all. And the first being United States. Easily the most talented roster within the tournament, and they rank first in field goal percentage, blocks, and top 3 in three-point percentage, rebounds per game. Guys led by Austin Reeves, Paolo Banchero, and Anthony Edwards, all double-digit scorers. Definitely think this is the favorite, along with Canada, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They are 3-0 and have blown out all 3 opponents, with their biggest at 26 points as they won over Latvia today. Those are the 2 very strong favorites, as we have Slovenia as well, led by Luka Doncic. They roster the best player in the tournament, as he is averaging 35 points per game. Stay where you are. When we come back, we'll hear from Cody and Ryan for the weekly sports recap.
What brings us to mountains? Is it the possibilities that await us at the top? Are we looking forward to how the challenge will mold us, transform us? Maybe the mountain is inside all of us. After all, we are mountaineers. Appalachian State University.
Welcome back to the A Game. I'm Cody Baer, joined alongside by Ryan Hendricks with some sports recap. James Harden was fined $100,000 after calling Daryl Morey a liar. Harden reportedly requested a trade this past summer after a less than desirable playoff exit with the 76ers. It is believed that these comments were in reference to the trade request that the 76ers are yet to accommodate. If Harden is to be traded, this would be his 4th team in 3 years. Does this hold any weight for the Sixers, and will it lead to more issues between Harden and the front office?
I think it will lead to more issues between the Sixers and James Harden. I think James Harden's just a team cancer everywhere he goes at this rate. He's just always making problems in the front office.
I think a lot of it is a big issue with smoke and mirrors. If the player is requesting a trade publicly, you're not going to have many people. You don't have much leverage. Now them saying they're not going to trade him, it's just for leverage. I think there will be a deal done.
Lamar Jackson signed a massive 5-year, $260 million deal this summer, which makes it one of the largest contracts in NFL history. According to Fox Sports, the Ravens are predicted to go 10-7 this year. Their 24-game preseason win streak was broken by the Washington Commanders this past week with a final score of 29-28. Will any of this affect the Ravens this season? And is Lamar's contract too big, too small, or just right?
I don't think the preseason loss will affect them. Regular season is a whole different world. But I do think the Lamar Jackson contract is just right. He's an MVP contender, and he makes the Ravens a Super Bowl contender.
I agree. I think that Lamar Jackson deserves his money, and I'm also going to agree with you on the preseason. Who cares if they have a 24-game win streak?
Listen to the crowd and the chants. It's MVP.
There go that MVP, boy.
On the topic of the NFL, we have been able to get a good look at upcoming rookies this preseason. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young had a strong performance in a 26-17 loss against the Detroit Lions, passing for a touchdown and finishing with a 103.8 QBR. Las Vegas Raiders' fourth-round pick, Aiden O'Connell, had yet another strong performance this past week. Playing against the Dallas Cowboys, he passed for nearly 200 yards in a 31-16 loss. Chiefs rookie wide receiver Rashee Rice showed promise this preseason as well, racking up nearly 200 receiving yards on 14 receptions. What are your thoughts on the 2023 rookie class?
I think this rookie class has some of the most promise we've seen in years, especially on the offensive end. We saw Bryce Young maybe not get too many highlight plays, but he was really safe with the ball. And I think just getting a few of those moments where he could show that he's poised in the pocket is going to make him really good for the future.
We already know that Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson are all going to be starters at the beginning of the season. That's huge. It's going to make for a fun first few games for those teams.
College football realignment has been shaking up the divisions over the past couple years. Some of the biggest moves being Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC, USC and UCLA to the Big Ten, this year with Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah moving to the Big 12. In the Pac-12, Oregon and Washington are both going to the Big Ten, which leaves us just with 4 remaining teams in the Pac-12 for the 2024 season. At the time of this filming, the ACC has yet to make any moves, but are expected to meet and vote on the addition of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. What weight does this hold for college football this coming year and in the future?
This coming year, we know that the Big 12 is going to go after Oklahoma and Texas next for starting this whole thing, for leaving the Big 12. But then the mega conferences are going to be everything. In this new playoff format, you could see 4 SEC teams in one playoff getting the conference and probably 3 of the 6 total left teams from the field. The University of Colorado has been getting a lot of media attention since NFL Hall of Fame cornerback Deion Sanders signed on to be their next head coach. It was recently announced that 2 home games this football season have already sold out, September 9th against Nebraska and October 13th against Stanford. This is the first time in 4 years the Buffaloes have sold out a game, and more are sure to come. With a record of 1-11, this is quite the achievement for the school. Colorado opens their season against 17th-ranked TCU this Saturday. Will Deion and his team be able to live up to the hype?
I think it depends on what you think the hype is. Do I think Colorado can make a bowl game this year? Absolutely. Do I think Colorado is going to go to the playoffs and Shedeur Sanders is going to be a Heisman? No.
I'm not even as high on this team this year as you are, Ryan. I think they go around 4-8, but there's a very good chance they become contenders soon in the new-looking Big 12.
It was recently announced that Appalachian State football legend Armani Edwards will get his jersey number retired on November 25th at the game against Georgia Southern. Edwards was part of the team that shocked the college football world with a 34-32 victory over the number 5 Michigan Wolverines in 2007. Edwards helped lead Appalachian State to 2 national championships in his 4-year tenure and went 42-7 as a starter. He was drafted to the NFL in 2010 by the Carolina Panthers at number 89 overall. This will be a huge day for Edwards and for Appalachian State. Are you excited for this game?
Absolutely. It's going to be electric. Against Georgia Southern during rivalry week, and we finally get to see this jersey, one of the best, if not the best jersey in App State history, in its rightful place, retired.
How can you not be excited for App State Georgia Southern? One of the most heated rivalries in all of college football, and on top of that, we get to see Armani get his shine.
Former Appalachian State football running back Cameron Peoples was waived by the Carolina Panthers this past week. Peoples was signed as an undrafted free agent and had 4 carries for 4 yards in the preseason. He still holds the school record for average yards per carry at 6.22 and the single-game bowl record for rushing yards, which he set in 2020 in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. In that game, he racked up 317 yards and 5 touchdowns, which is also tied for the NCAA bowl rushing touchdown record. Peoples will go down in history as an Appalachian State legend. Do you think he will get another shot in the NFL?
Absolutely. Though I think it'll take a few years with him bouncing around from practice squad to practice squad, sure. But a lot of teams need a power back these days, and Cam Peoples can provide just that.
Yeah, I was at that Myrtle Beach Bowl game, and I was right behind the App State sideline, and the fans were yelling at the coaches, give the ball to Cam, give the ball to Cam. That's the kind of play that this guy brings. I think he'll get another shot, even if it's on a practice squad this season.
Spain took home the victory in the FIFA Women's World Cup last week. This is the first title win for Spain and the first European country to win since 2007. They got the narrow victory over England with the final score of 1-0. Australia and New Zealand hosted the Women's World Cup this year. This World Cup had the largest attendance in terms of women's soccer. Sweden surprisingly eliminated the U.S. women's team in the round of 16. The United States women's teams were the defending champions. They were coming off back-to-back World Cup wins. Will the United States return to form in the next World Cup, or will they fall short again?
This was a huge year of transition. Megan Rapinoe is retiring. Alex Morgan is 34. We don't know if she's going to see another World Cup. But players like Sophia Smith, she's going to lead this generational shift for this team. I think they'll be back.
I agree with you, Cody. The U.S. women's team are the cream of the crop when it comes to women's soccer, and I think this year is just going to add another chip on their shoulder.
The 2023 NBA Draft took place over the summer with Victor Wembanyama being selected first overall by the San Antonio Spurs. Victor was a standout in France, playing for the Metropolitans 92, leading him to be the first French player to be drafted number 1 overall. Following the draft, an incident caused Wemby to be swept up into controversy surrounding his security guard slapping pop star Britney Spears. It hasn't been easy already for the number 1 pick, but on the court, he's regarded as one of the greatest prospects of his generation. Many believe a player has not had so much hype surrounding him since LeBron James in 2003. Will he live up to the hype?
I think Victor Wembanyama is going to be a year-in, year-out all-star, but however, you can't compare him to King James, just not yet.
Yeah, I agree. The hype is a little unfair. The hype's feeling like he has to be an all-star this year. He has to be the best player in the league in 3 to 5 years. I think he can really hit high levels, but for the hype right now, I think it's just a little too much for a guy who people are going to be disappointed in if he's not averaging 30 and 13. He needs some time.
Over the summer, the Boom Bigfoots completed their first season in the Coastal Plain League after placing the well-known Savannah Bananas. The Bigfoots made their mark as players Nadir Lewis and Jalen Vasquez were drafted in back-to-back in the 20th round of the MLB draft to the San Francisco Giants and the Baltimore Orioles. That wasn't the only accomplishment. The 2 Bigfoot staff members, Judson Mabe and Jeffrey Marson, brought home the Stream of the Year award. They offered most professional viewing experience for all home games on Flow Sports TV. The Bigfoots posted a 19-26 record, finishing 5th place in the West Division of the CPO. What are your thoughts on the Bigfoot season?
We got to see some players drafted, we got to see some broadcasters bring home some hardware, and fans never leave a Bigfoots game not satisfied, not entertained. You can't expect any less. It's amazing.
I agree with you, Cody. I think the Bigfoots are just fun all around to watch. Not the best season for them, but I think it's only going to be up from here.
That's all we have for you today. Thank you for joining us on The A-Game.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The A-Game Sports and follow AppTV on Instagram.